So I'm sure you've heard the news. Case IH has rolled out the latest generation of the historic, I should say, Axial-Flow combine. I remember when we got our first Axial-Flow, I believe late in the first year that they came out in the late 70s, and it was a big deal. And I would tell you, by looks of this combine, it's a real big deal also. So certainly you're going to hear a lot about this machine here over the next week because its official rollout is going to be at Louisville at the National Farm Machinery Show. Got word that there's already one there on site. Pretty exciting times. And for those of you that run red combines, I'm sure you've already had a conversation with your dealer. This is a dual rotor combine, but there's been a lot of thought in this redesign. It's been sneaking around social media. That's no secret here over the last couple years. It's something else was out there. Obviously, the dealer I talked to gave me a little bit of details, what they knew. It's my understanding that I think about, 700 dealers or something were down in Florida to kind of get the latest information on this combine. And I'm going to do what I can to share with you here while you're watching this amazing B-roll about this combine that we know so far. So the dealer I talked to kind of shared that this is a series of combine. It says it right on their website, so that means there's going to be more models in this model lineup. Looks to me like they call it a 10-plus class. So certainly when you look at the numbers, compare it to the other brands out there, this thing's a monster. 775 horsepower. That's a lot, and that's more than anybody else. 567 bushel grain capacity. Yep, that's more than everybody else also. And when you start looking into some of the details on the design of it, you can tell that this is not just another combine. There's a reason why Case says this is the largest red combine they've ever built, for obvious reasons. It's design, it's about capacity and efficiencies, and I think it goes without saying, producers that are looking for this class of combine in any model, it's all about cost per acre, cost per bushel, however you want to calculate that on your farm. Certainly labor is more important than ever. This combine does come with the automation that has been, I don't want to say standard, but now it's becoming standard, and it will be standard on this combine. Case IH calls that Harvest Command. It's very amazing software. I've used it personally. I used it back in the prototype years, and I was shocked. I've been running these goofy things since they came out. So it's a lot of fun to learn about that. I think when you start looking at the threshing capacity and the drive line and stuff, it's pretty neat. And, they don't make any 90-degree turns when it comes to moving that power down the drive line. Now, there isn't a lot of photos out there underneath the hood of this machine yet. Certainly at Louisville, there'll be a plethora of them. The engine's turned a different direction, which is pretty cool. They pulled the clean air right from the top, which I find very interesting, instead of on the side like historically we've done. And if you've run a combine, that's always kind of a challenge. Certainly there's a lot of automation. I think the spreading system is the one, radar-driven, hydraulic control. You're certainly going to do all that in the cab. That's pretty cool, especially when you start thinking about the platforms that are going to be on the front end of this combine. Certainly 50-foot platform, 16-row heads, but I don't know. It sounds to me like operators are probably going to want even bigger platforms if they can handle the residue, which is pretty cool. You got to make sure you got that throughput that can also manage the residue. That's kind of a neat thing. So obviously, if you're familiar with the flagship Case IH combine, certainly grain leveling is important, especially when it comes to cleaning. And they have that. I read some stuff about the combine. It's got about 45% more cleaning than their previous Class 9 model, which is pretty impressive. But I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to see what that engine placement looks like because it's turned 90 degrees, which is pretty cool. And obviously, they're trying to make it more efficient. I read a couple articles. They got the engine RPM down to 1900, which is pretty cool as well. And once you get in the cab of the combine, I think it goes without saying that there's been some pretty substantial upgrades there as well. I say finally, it does have an upgraded display. It's got the new AFS 1200. It has a pair of those in there, kind of a tablet-like device, very intuitive, kind of like an iPhone. Looks really neat. Certainly, it's going to have, a great interior. If you haven't been in a Case combine, there's a lot of room in it. It looks like they've upgraded the seat. Looks massaging and cooling and heating and all that kind of stuff. And the one thing I did notice, too, in the pictures, it looks like pretty impressive lighting package. There's actually a spot coming up here in this video where you can see it at night. that's a really good thing. To me, I never understood why combines didn't come from the factory with more light on them. But I think the interesting part of this, when you start comparing this to the other brands on the market, it's pretty neat. I mean, they've, I guess, raised the bar. Is the numbers don't lie, right? It seems like always the last guy to come to the fight's going to bring a bigger dog, right? And I was in Agritechnica when the big Class 10 combine came out from John Deere, the X9s, I should say, and man, they raised quite a buzz in the industry. And if you were a green guy, you look at it and go, wow, this thing's impressive. Well, if you're a red paint guy, this is an impressive machine. It's got whatever, 10% more horsepower, 11% more than anybody else. Certainly the biggest grain tanks before were, 460, 510 bushel, whatever it is. This has got, north of 560 bushel. And oh, by the way, you can unload it in 100 seconds. This video is pretty cool here. Obviously, you're looking at the interior maybe for the first time if you haven't seen it. It's pretty exciting. I'm not going to lie to you. I've been looking at a lot of the information that's out there about it, and had a couple phone calls last night of some people asking me about it. It's kind of fun to see kind of some of the newest as far as the farm show goes in Louisville. I don't know where else the machine's going to be. I can only assume we're going to see it at Farm Progress Show and other major shows here in the near future as well. So we'll all get a chance to kind of look it over. But the biggest tip or suggestion I could give you is to talk to your dealer. The one I talked to said, plan on that you're going to see them around this year. And he even said it's kind of a limited release in 25 before kind of full production. And certainly the part I'm probably more intrigued about that I couldn't find anywhere, they call this a series of combines. I think I mentioned this earlier. So does that mean there's going to be a Class 10 then, one below it? And, does this someday replace the flagship? Especially if it's more efficient, it's going to get guys' attention. But it's cool. I mean, I'll be the first to tell you there's going to be big producers that are going to welcome the efficiencies that come with it. Certainly, there's a price tag for that, but as long as the math works, guys will be doing it. So anyway, I just had a lot of questions, posted some of this stuff on social media, and I thought, you know what? I've been reading about this thing here tonight and thought, you know what? I better throw this out there. We are featuring it on This Week in Agribusiness this week for obvious reasons. This is pretty big news in the industry. I think it goes without saying, when you're at Louisville, this thing's going to draw a ton of attention. Be sure to check it out. Certainly there's going to be a lot more articles and a lot more videos to watch and learn more about the insides of this combine. And certainly I think we're all a little curious about what that series of AF combines is too. I'm sure more of that will be surfacing as well. So it's an exciting story in agriculture when you see something like this. It's certainly going to affect our lives for years to come. And just think of this, that Axial-Flow combine is nearly 50 years old. I remember when we got ours, everybody thought my dad was nuts for buying a rotor combine, and what do they say? Kind of the rest is history now. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Have a great, safe winter, and look forward to seeing y'all soon.